Sooner fans, Longhorn Nation, welcome to episode 54 of the Bevo Podcast, the only podcast exclusively dedicated to covering the greatest rivalry in college football, the University of Oklahoma and the University of Texas. I'm here with my man Kevin Miller. We're a little late on recording this Thursday, May 11th, because we've been dodging tornadoes all night long in the Oklahoma City metro area. Kevin, what television station do you and your family watch to stay ahead of the storms?
Well, as you know, I am not a native to Oklahoma, right? So I've only been doing this for almost 6 years now. But ever since I've been here, it's been News 9. And that guy, what's his David Payne? Is that his name?
Wow.
That's what we usually have it on.
Wow. David Payne gets a little fired up for me. He's
That's what I've heard.
Over the top.
I heard he used to be worse, though. He used to be even more animated and more, I guess, kind of sensationalizing things, getting people too amped up.
He sensationalized the crap out of things. Listen, for years and years and years, I've been a News 4. I stay forewarned. I love Mike Morgan and his Christmas ties in May and the whole thing. Emily Sutton is America's sweetheart. But I've started gradually shifting over to Damon Lane on Channel 5. He's just kind of the whole package.
Okay.
You know, your boss, Jessica, COO for Brown O'Haver. We are adjusters for the insured, not the insurance company. If you've been affected by the storms today, call 405-735-5510 and ask to speak to Jessica. Jessica Isom has the biggest crush on Damon Lane. It's crazy. Okay. She sees him at Walmart all the time, and she talks about how she gets weak in the knees. And it's pretty funny, dude. And I know that John Isom's her husband's probably listening to this right now. And I'm sure he knows about it. If he doesn't know about it,
I would imagine he's aware about it.
If he doesn't know about it, he needs to know about it because, I mean, her eyes kind of glaze. Listen, Jessica Isom is a very professional woman. She's a chief operating officer of an incredible company. We are so happy to be able to work for her. She's amazing. But her eyes glaze over when she talks about Damon Lane. And she's got me convinced, dude. And so I watch Damon Lane now.
Hey, I might have to switch if that's the case. See what the hype is about.
Yes, but one of the dudes, so he's got Jonathan Condor there, who's responsible for like drawing on the radar. That guy is like, he geeks out, man. It's like Nerd Central, and it's pretty interesting to watch him. And then my mind's spacing on the lead storm tracker. Now that guy he gets a little fired up. But anyway, it's a good balanced one. If you're new to the area and you're saying, how do I, listen, you got to enjoy storm season because if you don't enjoy it, it makes for a very long month and a half.
Yeah, you got to make the best of it, man. You got to.
You just like my girls were in there baking tonight while we're watching it. It's like, look, you can get worked up every time it happens. And listen, we all lived in Moore, 2013. This is going to be a 20-year reunion. I mean, not a 20-year, a 10-year, not reunion's the wrong word, a 10-year anniversary since that tornado hit. I know that some people have gone through some stuff. And so I'm not trying to minimize that. But day to day, man, these storm things get going, they get fired up. And if you get worked up on every one of them, you're going to have some high blood pressure. And you just got to, I don't know, enjoy
stay
Damon
calm,
Lane.
Stay calm, but stay aware, right?
Dude, you got to stay weather aware, dude. You have to stay weather aware.
Yeah, we've had some people, man, just in my experiences being here who were asleep when their house got hit by a tornado or who just weren't paying attention, had no idea it was coming, and you can get caught into a pretty bad situation.
Okay, this is the Bevo Podcast. We talk exclusively college football and specifically Oklahoma and Texas. So this conversation, which was a little bit of a tangent, but I think, on trend with what's been occurring here locally. How does tornado season impact recruiting at the University of Oklahoma? Do you think that tornado season, that other schools, specifically Texas, are using Tornado Alley against Oklahoma recruits?
I mean, maybe, but the thing about it, the thing I've noticed about people here, they're pretty aware. There's a lot of safety measures. My wife and I at our old house, we didn't have a tornado shelter. So we knew if ever there was one on the way, we can go straight to the university, and they had several storm shelters. I think the library, the lower level of the library, is a storm shelter. So
yes, okay, I hear you.
It's safe.
No. I look. I'm not questioning the safety. That's not. I'm not questioning the protocol. What I'm saying is I know. I hear what you're saying, and the
probably
imagery,
so.
like
Schools are going to use whatever.
The fact that a student has to contemplate where he would go in the event of a tornado while he's taking his official visit, does that affect recruiting? That's what I'm saying. Like, you're not hearing that in Austin. You're not hearing that in Austin. You're not hearing that.
Not at all. Not at all.
I mean,
yes,
listen,
schools would use whatever they can to get an edge. So I'm sure it happens.
If I am on Sarkisian's staff and we're going head to head with an Oklahoma recruit, I'm like, here, let me play you some tornado coverage from the last week. You tell me, do you want to be a part of this?
You really want to be ducking and dodging, getting blown away?
Listen to how many times they say, "Oh, you students, I know that you're watching this, and I know you're probably studying, but you need to get underground now," especially if they're watching David Payne.
I was going to say, is David Payne recruiting? Is he recruiting against OU, basically? Is that what you're saying?
Yes. Thank you. That's it. It's full circle. David Payne actively recruiting against Oklahoma, and it sucks. It's a real deal, man. I think this is a real phenomenon. We might need to investigate this some more. Anytime we lose a recruit, there's like 4 out of the top 5 recruits in OU are strong leans to coming to OU, which is great, positive sign. But like there's number 3 guy, and I don't even know where he's from. I don't even know his name because everybody has already written him off. But like the number 3 recruit in the state of Oklahoma is like, I'm not going to Oklahoma. And I'm wondering if he wants to get away from the tornadoes.
Hey, look, man, maybe so. Some kids, they just want to do something different, right? Look at all the kids from Austin who don't go to Texas. Happens the time.
Baker Mayfield, Derek Strait. I don't know.
Now, some of these guys, I don't know if Texas didn't recruit Baker Mayfield just like nobody else did other than Washington State and Rice.
Texas didn't recruit a quarterback until Steve Sarkisian got to town.
It appeared that way. It was rough for a while there.
There were years, Kevin. There were years where Texas was a quarterback desert. I mean, when you were rolling out Case McCoy and
Tyrone Swoops,
and I know he was highly recruited, but he wasn't good. No,
he wasn't.
I mean, until you got to Ellinger, and let's face it, gritty and, love to have him on your team, blah, blah, blah. He was never on any Heisman shortlist. You know what I mean?
Correct.
But he
was just the first competent guy we had.
But between Colt McCoy and Ellinger, what are you talking about? You're talking almost 10 years?
Yeah, if you wonder why we fell off a cliff, that's a big part of it.
It's all quarterback.
Huge part of it.
You could look at quarterback play, can't you? Mm-hmm. I mean, really?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And
because at the very least, if you have a good quarterback, that at least gets you 8 or 9 wins, at least.
How does Texas do? How in that time frame do they miss out on so many quarterbacks? Like, to me, you would think by accident, somebody from the state of Texas would show up and play quarterback. I mean, look at Oklahoma. Texas Tech obviously signed Baker Mayfield, to be fair, but that was an accident. They didn't expect Baker Mayfield to come in and win the job as a true freshman.
Yeah, they would have offered him a scholarship if they would have thought that.
No, you're to your point, 100%. So you would think by accident, you'd have
someone just falls in your lap. Yeah, it's just a calamity of errors when it comes to the evaluation process and the development process.
Who was the worst quarterback to start for y'all in that span?
Probably Swoops.
Really? Over McCoy, and who was the
Case was pretty okay.
He was
too.
Pretty weak, man.
Yeah, he was. But Swoops though, man, he just couldn't really hit a pass. It was rough with him. He had a couple of good performances. He played pretty good in that the Red River Shootout that year.
That's what I was going to say. Is for an Oklahoma fan, it's hard to imagine how bad he was on a game-to-game basis because the two times he teed it up against us, right? Was it 2 or just the 1 game?
I think it was just the 1 game.
Oh, but he was fantastic. He was fantastic. He was untackleable. It was insane how good he was. against us. And I mean, it speaks to how bad our defense was starting to get at the time. But he really did light us up in terms of just.
That was such an ugly game. Remember that? Him and Trevor Knight on the other side. It's just like, what are we doing?
Well, OU, didn't we run a touchdown back in the first quarter?
You had 2 non-offensive touchdowns. You had a pick six by Zach Sanchez, and then you had, I think it was Alex Ross had a kickoff return.
Yes, it was Alex Ross.
I remember being so bad that our kicker kicked the ball off to the 10-yard line. What are you doing?
I don't know. All right, well, so y'all have had that bad run of quarterbacks. Our bad run of quarterbacks kind of between Landry Jones and Baker consisted of Blake Bell, Trevor Knight. But there was one kid in there that started a game at Texas Tech that they did not let him throw the ball. Do you remember this?
I do.
Oh my gosh, I can't think who that was.
It wasn't the Cody Thomas kid. Was that him?
Yeah, Cody Thomas. That's right. Yep, that's right. Cody Thomas. And they wouldn't in the second half against Texas Tech, they didn't let him throw the ball.
Yeah.
Like, you know what? You're handing off to Samaje Perine and you are not.
That's crazy. And then you end up with this kid from Tech and who ends up becoming a legend. He was a walk-on. It's crazy how it works out, man.
Anyway, hey, this is going to be a great show. In between tornado warnings, I was checking out Celtics Sixers. We're getting Game 7 out of this.
Yeah,
are you fired up?
Good. Oh yeah,
Game
man.
7.
Nothing like a Game 7, NBA Game 7.
Dude, and Celtics Sixers, I mean, that's old school. That's like early 80s. I don't know how many people are listening to this podcast that can remember some of that. I barely remember Dr. J. Like, I remember him.
My uncles told me about him growing up. I knew all about him, but I never.
Yeah, I remember him like retiring, like that last season, and I think they played against the Bucks, and they, and he had a standing ovation, and he was retiring and calling it. But this goes back that far. I mean, the Sixers have not been good for a very, 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 very long time.
Yeah, they had to run with Iverson. They made the finals in 2001.
Yeah.
Got smoked by that incredible Lakers team.
Allen Iverson, best player ever under 6 foot.
How tall is Isaiah Thomas?
He's over 6 foot, right?
Pistons. Okay, then probably so.
I don't know. I get. Hold on, I'm gonna check. I'm gonna fact check that, but then it's 6'1". He's 6'1".
What about Iverson? They listed him as 6 foot, right, or 6'1", but they list him as.
No way.
I know he's not 6 feet. I know he isn't.
The internet has him at. Let's see if it's stats have it. The internet has him at 6 foot, but that dude wasn't 6 foot. There's no way.
No, he was 5'10" max.
Okay. Well, I did not expect this question today, but you're saying that Isaiah Thomas was better than Allen Iverson?
Yes.
Did win 3 titles, but Zeke's 2 titles, but Zeke's supporting cast was so much better.
That's true. Yeah. And listen, I love AI. But man, I don't know.
And Isaiah's was a longer period of success. You could argue too. People did not like Isaiah Thomas, though. We've talked about this on this podcast, how he got shut out of the dream team because Jordan and Bird and Magic pretty much said, no, we don't want him out there.
Which is pretty crazy, right?
Pretty crazy. Just a year or two after he's kissing on Magic in the finals, which freaking everybody out. That was such a weird thing. You remember that? You remember when they kissed? I mean, they'd kiss each other on the cheek, and it was like
very odd.
It was odd. It was very, very odd.
You can just dap each other up, right?
Yes, there's a lot of, and that was in the late 80s.
Yeah, exactly. This wasn't
prior to any woke, worldview that the world is experiencing now when it comes to athletes and sports. So that was interesting.
Yeah.
One-on-one, I think Iverson beats him in their peak years, right? So 1989 and 2001, if they were to play one-on-one, doesn't Allen Iverson beat him?
I don't know, man. Isaiah,
what? He doesn't know?
Really good, man. Well, Allen Iverson would be hard to stop one-on-one because of his quickness and his crossover. The crossover was insane. Remember he crossed out Jordan as a rookie?
I think Isaiah Thomas. I mean, he did win a national championship in an NCAA national championship too, didn't he?
Yeah, Indiana. Yeah.
But did Iverson only play? Iverson only played 1 year for Georgetown.
I thought he was there at least 2. I could be wrong though, but I thought he was there a few years.
Oh my gosh, I don't know. I don't even know what we're talking about right now. We might. You know what, dude? Let's circle back to this. I'm going to think about this over this podcast, and we're gonna before we close out, we'll have a definitive word on this. Anyway, Celtics and Sixers right now. Nuggets and Suns are playing. So if you're listening to this, obviously on Friday, you're going to obviously know the outcome. We do not know the outcome. It's the middle of the second quarter. You and I talked about this off the podcast when it came to Jokic. So I was telling you that I don't watch a lot of Denver Nugget basketball, right? So throughout the year, when people are either on First Take or on sports radio or you're reading an article and they're like, oh, there's no way Jokic is the best player in the league. You know, so many other different players, and they even bring up the race card. You know, they throw out so many different reasons why he's not the best player. And then I watched him the entire game, Game 5. Kevin, he's the best player in the NBA right now.
He is. He is, man. I mean,
there's nothing.
All you got to do is watch it.
There's nothing he can't do. He's making steals, making blocks. He's one of the best passers in the league, regardless of position. Not just a good passing big man. He's one of the best passers in the league.
Yeah. I mean, he averaged 9.8 assists this year. 9.8.
I mean, when's the last time a 7-footer averaged that? I don't know if it ever happened.
I don't know if it's ever happened. And there's no better passing big man in the history of the NBA.
Who was a better passer? Maybe Bill Russell? I don't know. I mean, I can't even think.
I mean, Duncan was a pretty good passer. Shaq was a good passer. He was an underrated passer from the post when the double team would come.
But he wasn't.
But he's not dropping dimes though.
Yeah, dude. And he sits up at the top of that key, and it's like he's playing 7-on-7, and he's the quarterback.
Yeah. Yeah, he's like the point guard.
And guys are just making constant motion, and he's just just in this game that I'm watching, in the first 5 minutes, he had like 3 assists, and it's like he hadn't even shot a ball yet, and you're thinking, well, this guy's still the best player on the court. So anyway, I just find that conversation fascinating because you hear it almost obviously every year because he's been. Is this going to be his 3rd year in a row getting how many?
He didn't win it this year. He won the last 2 MVPs.
Who won it this year?
Joel Embiid.
You know what? Yes. That was all part of the conversation. I'm sorry. I don't know. I think Jokic is better than Embiid, and I like Embiid.
I think he is. I think he is too. But man, Embiid was really, really good this year.
What do you think about him? What do you think about him being? Is he going to be hurt for Game 7? Embiid?
Man, I hope not. I want the best guys out there.
He's had a really good series. He's had a very good series.
For Embiid, by the way, 33.1 points, 10.2 rebounds, 4 assists a game. So
yeah, that's pretty salty, dude. He's improved every year, and he's gone through so much. I mean,
and 85% from the line.
Yeah, the guy
85% for a center.
He just gets ridiculed and beat up too for just some of the stupid stuff he says and does, and that stupid organizations he's had to play for all these years.
Yeah, the whole process crap.
Oh my gosh, I mean, you're seeing the Thunder. You know, the Thunder effectively tanked and rebuilt, but man, that was like a 3-year process. Yeah. I can't imagine what that felt like in Philadelphia. How long that went on.
Yeah. And if you think about it, most of those guys that the process was about. I mean, Ben Simmons, that's horrible, right? Markelle Fultz was another number 1 pick they had. He's playing for Orlando, and for a few years there, he wouldn't even shoot. He had some.
I was about to say, has he gotten over the yips yet?
I think he has. He's become a pretty good player for Orlando, but so the process really has been a disaster other than him. Yeah, no,
I just think the problem is losing is, for anybody out there watching The Natural, this is a shout out to my man, Brandon. We were talking about this the other day. He knew exactly what I was talking about. This guy, Brandon, Army aviator. How legit is that? The dude looks like he is a recruiting poster for Army aviation. The dude just it's super impressive.
He's basically Captain America.
Yeah, I guess you have captains in the Army. I think he's a major though.
Captain America.
I understand. He looks like Captain America. Yeah. Anyway, He's going to get this reference. Okay, losing is a disease, right? And once you start losing, it is really hard to turn that ship around. It is really hard to start building a culture where then you now want to win. And I tell you what, Philadelphia, it's way past the process. It took years and years and years and years and years. And I just can't imagine a city like that's as hardcore about their sports as Philadelphia was able to have that level of patience for so long. It's crazy.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Speaking of losing and winning, this was fascinating when it came to OU Texas over the last couple weeks. But the win totals have started to filter out now for what everybody's anticipating in the lines on DraftKings, stuff like that coming out for the 23 season. The narrative around Texas right now is that you guys are on the way up. You guys are a top 5 team. You guys are poised to break through finally and make it to a college football playoff. You're going to win the conference. You are the front runner, the front dog, and you are trending towards a triumphant entry into the SEC. That is the narrative facing the University of Texas right now.
From some people, yeah.
And I don't know that I'm even, at least for the sake of what I'm talking about, I'm not being facetious. Like, that's the narrative, and there's probably some merit to it. Maybe. I don't know. We'll talk about that. Oklahoma, on the other hand, listen to guys like Feinbaum, other national pundits, just a general thought in terms of the hangover of Lincoln Riley having left us and this whole deal is that Oklahoma is continuing is going to continue to languish. They're in the depths of despair. They're going to limp into the SEC. They have no chance of making the playoff this year, let alone winning the Big 12. None of that is on the national radar for Oklahoma. Yet, the win totals for both teams the line is 9.5.
9.5. 9.5 for each school.
Okay. I will give Texas Alabama. Okay, so you get Alabama. You take Alabama off your schedule. Does that mean that you're a 10.5 win team? I mean, is that how big the Alabama game looms on your schedule, that it's a guaranteed loss based on what everybody else is saying about how good y'all are? Does that make sense?
It does make sense. It does. I mean, that's a rough game for Texas, man. And I know they played them close last year, right? Probably should have won last year. And I know they got their quarterback issues, but man, playing in Tuscaloosa, it's just a whole different game, right? So, I mean, I think they maybe have a 35% chance of winning that game. I would feel much better if it was in Austin again.
Dude, we're going to talk about that. We've talked about this game, and we're going to continue to talk about the game. It's the best game on either of our two team schedules. It was the best game last year on any of our two team schedules. So we're going to talk about this game, but let's talk a little bit about it right now. Y'all are returning the quarterback. Y'all are in the third year of the coach. Y'all have returning players throughout on both sides of the ball that you're really counting on. Alabama was a 3-loss team last year. They had to go to the transfer portal to find a quarterback. We don't even know who their starting quarterback is going to be for sure. They lost defensive players all over the field. So, if the narrative is true about Texas, then why is this such an instantaneous loss, as this projected win total would seem to indicate?
Because it's Alabama, man. No team in the country has earned the benefit of the doubt like Nick Saban and Alabama has. They just figure it out. Last year was weird with those 3 losses. It was just weird, man. Especially with all the talent that they had, it was weird, right? I mean, they lost. Who they lose to? The Tennessee game. Tennessee was really good last year, and they had, a 14-game losing streak. Had to end eventually, right?
Did they lose to LSU?
They lost to LSU on the road and overtime. And, I mean, look, it's LSU, man. It's a hard place to win.
Yeah.
And I forget who their third loss was to.
Let's see. I mean, they killed Kansas State.
They did.
Google always is a pain in the butt here. Let's see.
All right, here we go. Now, they were 11-2 last year.
They only had 2 losses?
Yeah, they had 2 losses. So those two, Tennessee and LSU. I mean,
those are two acceptable losses.
Yeah, those are only 2 losses in conference. I mean, Tennessee was really, really good last year. I thought they had a special season.
That's before Hyatt got hurt.
Yeah.
And even then, that game, it took every point that Tennessee could put on the board to beat them. I guess what I'm getting at is we're blue bloods, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Both teams?
I would think so.
Why do we have to be second tier to Alabama?
Well, I just mean right now. I mean, what do they got? 6 national championships or 5 natties?
Yeah, but those are different teams, dude. Those are teams that had those are teams that had returning quarterbacks. Those were teams that didn't have 2 defensive ends taken in the first round. Like, dude, who was one of their wide receivers last year? They did not have a wide receiver last year that was that. They did not
Bryce Young bailed them out of.
Oh,
I mean, so many. I mean,
and their running back that left early.
Yeah,
that got picked. I mean, that guy was that guy was a stud. Him and Bryce Young are the reason y'all lost to Alabama, right?
Really, it was just Bryce Young, but yeah.
Well, but Gibbs had a good first half that kept them in the game. At least gave some offensive because he had that big long touchdown run, didn't he?
No, that was actually Jason McClellan who had the long run.
Oh, okay. Was it?
Yeah,
okay.
Remember him, former OU commit. I was committed to OU for 3 years.
You're right.
After his freshman year, and then flips to Alabama like 2 days before signing day.
Is he still there?
I believe he is.
Oh, I hope he runs all over y'all. My point is you got this narrative, and I just find it fascinating that you're still at 9.5 wins. Conversely, you look at Oklahoma, and the narrative is the wheels are going to continue to fall off. We don't have the pieces yet. Brent Venables is in over his head, and yet we have 9.5 wins. Now, granted, the schedule is disastrously bad. To remind everybody, we had Georgia on this schedule. They were scheduled to play. We had a home and home, but when the SEC came to town and we officially joined, we had to drop Georgia from it. We replaced them with SMU. Now,
did you have to? Did you have to?
I don't know who else could you have replaced them with at that late a day.
Yeah, I get it because this was going to be the first year of it, right? I think Texas left Alabama on because it was the second year of theirs.
I think that's what happened.
Yeah, I think that's why. No, that makes sense.
I mean, I think that there could have maybe been a way to make this a non-conference game and then play Georgia next year and then make it a conference game. But I don't.
Yeah.
I mean, to be honest,
too much trouble.
Well, I don't know why it would have been too much trouble. Like, honestly, when you really think about it, like, what difference does it make? But for whatever reason, they thought it made a difference, so they canceled it. Now, Oklahoma, if Alabama is not being given an opportunity, if Texas is not being given an opportunity to beat Alabama, Oklahoma, on that same thought process, would have been smoked by Georgia this year. Game 2, it would have been tough.
It's rough. Yeah, that's a tough ask, especially so early in the season.
But with that being said, looking at the rest of our schedule, I struggle to find less than 11 wins. Because the Texas game is the biggest game on the schedule, right?
Yeah, and that game's always a toss-up.
TCU is not the same TCU from last year, though, correct?
I don't expect them to be. They lost a ton of players to the NFL.
And Oklahoma State,
8 players drafted, something like that.
Oklahoma State doesn't have a quarterback anymore, which I still think is fascinating. How that whole thing went down between Spencer Sanders and Mike Gundy. I think Cincinnati on the road could be intriguing, but we've talked about this. No Luke Fickell. It doesn't really make you as nervous. Mm-hmm. BYU, I think, is going to be interesting late in the season. Weather conditions could play a factor in that game. But at the same time, Oklahoma is going to be favored in every game except Texas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And yet they're only at 9.5 wins. It just, I don't know how they get to that win total unless the national perception is driving down the betting line. I mean,
I don't know, man, because sometimes this, how the media works, right? They know how to get at fan bases.
They're getting at us, dude. They're getting at us.
And that's how with Texas, it's the opposite. You hype up Texas because it brings out all the Texas haters to remind Texas fans how much they have sucked over the last decade. I think that's what a lot of this is about from the national narrative. Now, listen, Brent Venables has to earn the benefit of the doubt, right? Like 6-7 in his first season as a head coach. So he's got the great opportunity here to turn it around, right? You win 9 games this year compared to 6. That's a big improvement.
Apparently, he's never coached a team, been a coach on a team with a losing record. This was his first ever losing record in like a 30-year career coaching, going all the way back to like graduate assistant type stuff.
And K-State,
Garden State Community College, like this whole, like his entire career, he's never had a losing record. Doesn't mean a whole heck of a lot because now he has had one. I don't know. I just think I want this football season to start like yesterday because I want Oklahoma to prove that we can be as good as I think they can be, and everybody and a lot of Oklahoma fans think they can be. I mean, we've talked about their defensive the need to improve on defense. They've added 3 instant improvements defensively in the transfer portal.
Yeah.
Not to mention Peyton Bowen and potentially Adibare on the defensive line. Like those, that could be 5. That could be nearly half your starters are complete upgrades, like turnkey starters, contributing players at a much higher productivity level than in 2022. That has to account for something. It has to account in the win total.
No, I completely agree. I want to see how the defensive tackles look. I think that was a big struggle. Kind of why you struggled against the run. It's a personnel issue more than anything else. The scheme that Venables runs, Clemson, he had really big physical defensive linemen. Well, Alex Grinch, his defense was to guys that move quickly, that can slant, get across the face of an offensive lineman.
Speed deep.
Correct. Yeah. And again, listen, it was up and down for you guys with his defense, right? A lot of down.
It was
mostly down. But again, that's what the players that were there were recruited to do. You bring in Venables, so he's got all these guys who don't fit that scheme. So he's got to get guys in at that position that can fit his scheme. And I think we saw that with the way the run defense was. And then also that led to the, bad pass defense too.
I can agree with you that in terms of player upgrades, the one thing that doesn't show an instant upgrade is the interior on the defensive line. Because Bothroyd's a defensive end, McCullough's at Cheetah or, kind of a roving backer kind of thing. Pearson's in that safety position. So Bowen's a free safety. Adibare, he's kind of on that defensive end area too, right? So
yeah, he's an edge player for sure. Mm-hmm.
I think on the defensive line, you're right that we run the risk of not seeing immediate improvement there. But I just don't know that that's
the secondary though should be significantly improved though.
I think the secondary is going to be improved. I don't see anybody on this schedule outside of Texas that's gonna overpower us on the interior line like they did last year though. We've got to be better. And here's the deal, dude. We don't have K-State, which was almost a guaranteed loss over the 6 years.
Yeah, I mean, and then you don't play Texas Tech, who I think is going to be contending to play for the conference title.
Yeah, you've been high.
I think they're going to be good. I am. I'm high on Coach Joey McGuire. I really like what he's doing out there, and I think they're going to be good this year.
In other sporting news, before we get to other sporting news, we haven't done a full-fledged Brown O'Haver commercial in a couple of episodes. So if you're a first-time listener or to our long-time listeners, Brown O'Haver is our title sponsor, the title sponsor of the Boomer Bevo podcast. Brown O'Haver is a public insurance adjusting firm. We adjust claims for the insured, not the insurance company. So if you're down in Norman and you got hit by those tornadoes in late April, okay, and you have not been paid your full settlement on your insurance policy, you need to call Brown O'Haver 405-735-5510. If you know somebody who's complaining to you and they're saying, man, my insurance company's really screwing me over, tell them, please call 405-735-5510. Ask to speak to Alice or Jessica or Jeffrey or Kevin or John and say, hey, this is what's happening with my insurance claim. It's starting to happen. We're starting to hear the rumblings. The rosy glow of the insurance adjuster client relationship is quickly fading. People are getting upset. If you're getting upset or you're not getting what you should be getting, you need to give us a call. If you've got recent damage or a fire, call us 405-735-5510. We get clients 30 to 40% more than they get on their own. If you've already been paid an amount, it costs you nothing to talk to us. You would only owe us a fee if we got you additional money. Call us 405-735-5510. Kevin, in other news from around the sports world, the NFL has released their schedule for 2023. It opens up with Chiefs-Lions as the very first game of the year on a Thursday night. Fascinating that the Lions are garnering opening night attention against the defending champions. I love it. I was high on the Lions last year.
Me too. Yeah, we both were.
I loved Hard Knocks. I'm all about Aiden Hutchinson, that whole thing. I'm excited about that.
Campbell. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I think it's great. Bills Jets is going to be the Monday night football game the first weekend, which is, we talked about Aaron Rodgers in the last podcast. I think this is going to just be must see TV. Bijan Robinson will be opening his NFL career against the Panthers in week 1. Surely he's the starting quarterback or starting running back week 1, right?
Oh, yeah, I think so.
Who else is
They got a kid, Tyler Algiers, who was a rookie last year. He had a pretty good season. I think he had 1,000 yards. But Arthur Smith, he loves to run the ball. They're going to run the ball all the time. And I do have questions about their quarterback, Desmond Ridder, kid out of Cincinnati. Played some last year. I have no idea if he's good or not. So they're going to run the crap out of the ball.
Let me ask you a serious question. Are you going to get any Atlanta Falcons gear and or Dirty Bird gear now that Bijan Robinson is there? Will you sport it?
I may get a Bijan Robinson jersey and maybe frame it in support of him, but I will not I'm not buying like a Falcons hat.
Will you hang it if you get a jersey and hang it up? Will you hang it up behind you instead of the girly picture that is in your background right now?
Well, maybe for the podcast. This is my wife's office, so
hey,
I would.
You're telling me when your wife's working, she would not want Bijan's jersey smiling down on her?
I'm sure she'd be fine with it.
I hope not. I hope she would hate it. Remember, Casey's an Oklahoma fan. I hope she would draw derogatory stuff on it all over it.
She wouldn't, because it's Bijan. If it was anybody else, like if it was a Kevin Durant jersey, it might be a little different.
I got to be fair. You know what? To be reasonable to Bijan, he's not an easy guy to not dislike. He's not an easy guy to dislike. He's actually quite pleasant.
It's like Gerald McCoy.
Yeah.
For OU.
Bijan is one of those guys you wish was on your team. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can't say a bad thing about him. So I would get, but I wouldn't. No, I'm not going to buy like a Falcons hat.
No. I already bought a Buccaneers hat when Tom Brady came to the Bucs because I am that guy, unlike you. And I will be sporting that week 1 against the Vikings when Baker makes his starting debut. I think he's going to do terribly there. That is my prediction. I am not optimistic about it. For some reason, I don't feel good about it. This is not the same. It's not the same team that Tom Brady had even 2 or 3 years ago. It's just not.
They're in the Caleb Williams sweepstakes, aren't they?
Probably right. I mean, the only saving grace for them is they are in the NFC South.
Yeah,
and the NFC South kind of sucks. I mean, New Orleans should always be better than they are, but they're not quite. But I don't know. Now, let me ask you this though: the one thing that caught me is not specifically the actual games, but the fact that there are games. There's a triple header on Christmas. As an NBA fan, are you bugged by a triple header by the NFL being on Christmas?
You know, there used to almost be, I guess, maybe a gentleman's agreement with the NFL. Hey, we'll let you guys have Christmas. Not anymore. That ended last year. We saw it. There were games on Christmas. And of course, the ratings are through the roof because every NFL game, the ratings are through the roof. I don't care what's on. What else is on? People are going to watch the NFL. So, man, yeah, it's just kind of ruined that for the NBA because guess what I'll probably be watching? I'll probably be watching the NFL game.
Yep.
Right?
Okay, so that's the NFL. That's on Christmas. That's the middle finger to the NBA. What about the middle finger to the college football playoff? Isn't the college football playoff typically played on New Year's Eve? They're going to be a triple header on New Year's Eve.
Is it Sunday though? What day is it?
No, because isn't Christmas on a Sunday? Or is that a Monday?
No idea.
Let's look at the calendar. How many shopping days?
Yeah, it's a Sunday. Yeah, December 31st. It's a Sunday. So nothing they can do about that.
So what do you think they'll do? You think they'll play the playoff games?
The playoff will probably be on the 30th, I imagine.
Let's look it up. CFP 2023.
Yeah.
24 dates. Oh, where are they? Monday, January 1st. So you think they're not going to have a Monday? Are they not going to have a Monday night game then? Probably not, right? They won't have a Monday night game. Hey, that'll be cool though to be on Monday.
Oh yeah, probably not.
That'll be cool to get it back on New Year's Day. Remember back in the day when we were kids and you could have like 9 televisions going? Like my dad would set up an extra TV and I thought it was the greatest thing in the world. We had 2 TVs. Today you got computer and your phone and split screen on your, but back in the day, dude, you did 2 televisions and you tried to and it was, Gator Bowl, Outback Bowl, Peach Bowl, Rose Bowl, Cotton Bowl, Orange Bowl, just bam, 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 bam. It was the greatest thing in the world. Oh, it was great. Yeah, the Fiesta Bowl was always that late game. Man, it was great, dude. I loved it. It'll be nice to have that. It'll be nice to have that back on New Year's Day.
And that's why New Year's Day still remains my favorite holiday. That and Thanksgiving, literally because of football.
Yeah, I think the college football playoff being on New Year's Eve is taking a little bit of that away from New Year's Day.
Okay.
You always have the Rose Bowl, and I love the Rose Bowl. What is
Nothing
it?
better.
It's Rose Bowl and Sugar Bowl, which are 2 pretty good bowls. Anyway, that's exciting. All right, Kevin, we're gonna wrap this up because it's getting a little late here in the Central Time Zone, but we got to come back to the burning question: Allen Iverson or Isaiah Thomas? Peak of their career, their best year to their best year. Okay. Who are you taking? One-on-one.
Man, if it's one-on-one, I'm taking AI.
Wow.
But if you're asking me who had a better career, I'm going with Zeke, Detroit Pistons. Yeah.
Golly. I'm going with Allen Iverson. I think Allen Iverson was a better basketball player. I love
Allen Iverson.
I think Allen Iverson did not have the benefit of a supporting cast. I think Allen Iverson made everything he could get out of his personage to get them to the finals. That was all on Allen Iverson.
He put it all out there.
That was
on the line.
all on him, 100%.
Yeah.
Where Isaiah Thomas, and I love it. I mean, this is a hard decision, but Isaiah Thomas had Joe Dumars, vastly underrated basketball player. Joe Dumars was a heck of a 2-guard. Okay. He had Bill Laimbeer. He had Mark Aguirre, especially in the 2 years that he won. Mahorn, John Sally.
Dennis Rodman.
Dennis Rodman. What are you talking about? He's a Hall of Fame, defender, rebounder, and he was a much better offensive player when he was with the Pistons. And on top of that, he had Chuck Daly. Now, Iverson had Larry Brown, but Larry Brown was a weird kind of pro coach, so I don't know about all that.
He was kind of weird. Yeah. He was weird.
I'm thinking of that,
Although
right?
that Detroit team he coached, though. Yeah, no, you're right. It was Larry Brown.
Yeah, and then he went to Detroit. Okay, that's what I'm
making. He won his
sure
championship there with Detroit.
Was that with Chauncey Billups, that team?
Yeah, Ben Wallace, Rasheed Wallace, Tayshaun Prince. Team. That was an underrated run they had.
Was that before or after the Malice at the Palace? That was before,
that was
right?
Before. Yeah, I think the Malice was maybe
05, 06.
Wait a minute. No. Wait a minute. I think that was before that. They won the title in 04. It might have been around the same time, actually.
November 19th, 2004.
Okay, yeah, they won the title. Well, okay, it was a year after they won the title then. They would have won the title in, June of 04.
What a fantastic
This is them coming off of a championship.
That was a fantastic fight.
It's the most bizarre thing I've ever seen. Did you see it live?
Yes. That was back in the day when I used to watch NBA basketball. Yeah.
I think I was like 20 at the time.
Yeah.
So we're at this all ages pool hall back in San Antonio, and the game was just on.
Was that the one on the road right there? What road was that on?
Where not the one. You talking about the one on Calabria?
Yes, not on that one.
No, this one was in Leon Valley on Bandera and Eckerd Road.
I think I might have been to that one though. I think it was.
Yeah.
Yes, I know which one. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, not far from Marshall High School.
Yes.
Yeah, that's where we were. And they had a big, a huge TV screen back there. They had a bunch of TVs, but they had this one that was like covered the full wall. And everybody in the pool hall was watching this. Like, how is this actually happening in an NBA game? With the fans too. I mean, drinks are being thrown, chairs are being thrown. Fans are stepping on the court, getting knocked out by players.
It was fantastic.
Players in the stands. Yeah.
I can't even I don't even want to know with social media today what would happen if something like that
happened. I know. Yeah.
It would be it would be insane. Okay, so we're agreeing that Allen Iverson is a demonstrative.
You know what? Yeah. I mean, I'm looking at the numbers. I'm looking at the stats here, right? I mean,
okay. All right.
Give us Isaiah Thomas numbers. For his career, 19 points, 9 assists, 3.6 rebounds for Isaiah Thomas. Pretty good numbers for a point guard, for a true point guard, too.
True point guard, yep.
Yeah, 19 points, 9.3 assists, 3.6 rebounds. Allen Iverson.
And to be fair, real quick, could score when he had to.
Correct. Yes.
I mean, those numbers are a little deceptive because if he needed to go for 35, he could go for 35.
Correct. He's a 12-time All-Star, 2-time champion.
Gold medal winner, 96.
No, he was not on. I'm talking about Isaiah Thomas.
Yeah, he was on the 96 team.
Was he
not? Was he not on the 96 team?
I don't think so. I think he was already retired by then.
Oh, was he on like the 94 team after that?
There was only 92 or 96 for every 4 years of the Olympics.
All right, keep going with that.
And then he's a member of the 75th anniversary team, so top 75 all time. And of course, he's a Hall of Famer. Allen Iverson, on the other hand, 11-time All-Star, 4-time scoring champ. 4-time. He was All-NBA 7 times. He was a 97 Rookie of the Year. He was a 2001 MVP, and he was also on the 75th anniversary team. So
what was his
incredible career?
What was his points per game again?
26.7.
Yeah, no, he's a better basketball player.
6 assists and 3 rebounds, 3.7 rebounds. And no one played harder. He played hurt all the time. He's always getting knocked to the floor.
You ready for this? You ready? This is what's called a dad joke. I'm setting this up.
Okay. All right.
So just everybody out there know that I'm fully self-aware when I make the joke I'm about to make. Think about how good he would have been if he actually went to practice.
Yeah.
Boom.
Not the game. Not the game.
Not the game he loved.
We talking about practice.
Listen, Kevin, is there a better video in the world?
No.
Is there a better video in the world? I don't think there
is.
All. Listen, as an OU fan, the Mike Gundy video is right up there, right? I mean, it is very, very close. It's not better. It's the Allen Iverson video is the number one YouTube video in my mind of all freaking time. Undisputed champion.
Correct. Yeah, it's the best
and that
rant
includes
ever.
cat videos. That includes cat videos.
And the thing about Iverson too, I mean, I heard, he loved to party. So
He went hard.
Yeah, and still played so hard. So imagine if he would have put the kind of maybe focus and dedication into the game like a Kobe, or even somewhere in between that. Kobe was maniacal.
Listen, dude, people always say that. People always want to talk about that. In fact, I heard this the other day. My wife brought this up to me. We're way off topic now. I don't even care. Boomer Bevo Podcast. It's about OU Texas, whatever. Okay, listen. They were talking about the fact that Andre Agassi was too self-critical, that he was too hard on himself, that he spoke too negatively about himself. And it was for that reason that he was never as good as Roger Federer or Pete Sampras. Okay.
Interesting. Okay.
And my point is, much like my point with AI, right, is how do we know that he didn't maximize everything he had? Who says that those are the factors that kept him from being better? What if those are the factors that got him as high as he was? Andre Agassi was one of the best tennis players of all time. Allen Iverson averaged 26 points in the league under 6 foot on a terrible team. He was the team was terrible. I mean, yes, he partied. Maybe he partied too. I don't know. Could he would have? But it takes the whole package to be able to create performance like that. If he would have done what Kobe did, who's to say he doesn't burn out and he's not that same player?
That is true. That's a good point.
I don't know. I could be full of crap. I don't know. But I think it's interesting when people criticize the best players in the world at a given sport and say they didn't live up to their potential. Well, Allen Iverson, under 6 foot, didn't live up to his potential. Andre
you never
Agassi,
hear me say that.
Andre Agassi, who won, I don't even know I know he won majors, right?
Yeah.
The guy was a heck of a tennis player. I would argue that he potentially exceeded his expectations.
And with Iverson, I remember, he's just a cultural icon too. He's absolutely that dude.
And what's interesting about Allen Iverson, and I think you'll agree with this, is he kind of represented that shift in basketball culture that occurred at the turn of the century. Okay. Correct. So you had the Michael Jordans. They were still holding on to this concept of Larry Bird. They were still holding on to Magic. It was these team players. It was still very much a team game. Now Jordan had kind of, Jordan's always going to be but he was that ultimate kind of hip hop individualistic player. More of a video game than old school basketball. Is that fair to say?
Yeah. No, yeah, very fair. Absolutely.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, like I said, he's a cultural icon. I love the guy. And a hell of a football player. Go watch the highlights of him playing quarterback in Virginia.
Really?
And he will tell you that he loves football more than basketball.
What's interesting, at 6'1" in 2000 in the 2020s, he could have played football. He probably would have played football.
Yeah, he could have been a quarterback. Yeah, exactly.
Because the game is different now. The game is different now. And at 6'1" or 6 foot or whatever it is, he would have probably thought he actually, as weird as it sounds, had a better chance of playing quarterback than he did playing in the NBA.
Correct. Yeah, absolutely.
But that was not the case in late 90s.
No,
you had to be 6'5". You had to be a 6'5" Ryan Leaf type player to be a quarterback.
He would have played corner. That's what he would have played.
Listen, NBA athletes are so big and so fast, but because they don't wear pads, you do not realize what kind of freaks they are. You put those dudes in pads and they tower over the NFL players.
And they'd be the best athletes on the field.
They'd be the best. I mean, not even close. All right, fantastic. We have settled one of the greater questions of our life today. Allen Iverson better than Isaiah Thomas. Oklahoma underrated. Texas overrated. It's just a fantastic night.
Properly rated. Hold on real quick before we go. Just so we know, I know the expectations with some are high, but for me, who I think I'm pretty honest about what I think, right? I don't overhype Texas ever. Nope. But I expect them to be playing for the Big 12 championship. If they're not, I will be disappointed this year.
God, bowl schools should be.
Yeah.
Bowl schools should be.
Yeah.
Like, look at Oklahoma's record. I don't know that Oklahoma's the second best team in the league, but their record should get them into they should be in there just by default, just because they got the O and the U on their helmet. And for Texas, if any of the hype is correct, and if any of the progress has been made, and if Quinn can tighten up some of his percentage, his completion percentage and reduce some of those interceptions, y'all should be a better team than you were last year. And you don't have TCU. K-State is not the same K-State team. They've lost both their quarterbacks, right? Adrian Martinez.
We do have TCU though, but
yeah, but they're not the same team.
Yeah, I don't expect them to be the same team at all.
So yes, I agree. We should be playing each other twice next year. We should be playing each other twice next year.
Yeah. But you got to win those games you should win, right? The Alabama game, okay, but those other games, got to win them.
Kevin, great show. Glad you and your family are safe tonight. Boomer.